You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. If you'd like to learn more about the Bearded Theologians, you can go online at beardedtheologians.com, where we have past podcasts, blogs, and a couple items for sale. So check us out, beardedtheologians.com. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this week's show. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
So this week on the podcast, we're going to be looking, and actually over the next few weeks, we're going to be sitting down with other pastors and other colleagues, sitting down talking about Pastor Appreciation Month. This is, as we move into October, that is traditionally when the month is held, and churches do all sorts of different things throughout that month. And with this being, we've been in the middle of a global pandemic, clergy morale is down drastically. Clergy are retiring or quitting at an alarming rate. And Zach and I wanted to spend some time talking about that, getting that out there, how clergy can be cared for, appreciated, loved on. So that way, maybe we can help slow down this trend of clergy just feeling burned out. And so, Zach, as you think about this, as we get ready for the next few weeks, what are some things that kind of come into mind for you?
For sure. Pastor Appreciation is one of those weird months. It's kind of like knowing your birthday's coming. In a lot of ways, we sometimes know that our churches are going to do something, and maybe we've been there long enough and know the rhythm, or we know the rhythm and not doing something. I've experienced both churches who have been great and really supportive and intentional about Pastor Appreciation Month, and then I've served churches who never was even on their radar, and that's okay. But we're here to shed some light on that so that it is on everybody's radar. And I think we've all seen the numbers floating through Facebook memes and online of the alarming rate in which pastors and clergy are just saying, you know what, I'll go do anything else. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I think the big phrase right now is I didn't sign up for this, right? Which there are days I identify with, and there are days I'm like, no, I did sign up for this. This is part of it. And, being flexible and not letting myself burn out. I think that's the big thing. That's always a red flag for me. If I'm saying I didn't sign up for this, I need to take a break. I need to take a nap. I need to take some time and rest and renew. And Pastor Appreciation Month helps that. And for me, Pastor Appreciation Month isn't so much, I love cards and gift cards and, the things that the church does, but it's the not tangible things that churches often do in supporting, going, hey, we saw that you went kayaking on a Tuesday afternoon. Good. We saw that you were hanging out with your family on the weekend. We didn't want to bother you. Great. Those are significant ways that churches have supported me in my time and showed appreciation, rather than the opposite questions of why were you doing that with your family? Why weren't you in the office? And so, yes, Pastor Appreciation Month, we focus on the month of October to be really intentional about it. But for me, I hope that we can set up some intention that carries out through the rest of the year, and not so much in gifts, right? But time and space and grace as we appreciate our pastors long term. And I always find it funny that Pastor Appreciation comes in October when we're trying to write budgets and getting back into the swing of things out of summer, and we're already tired a month in. I find it really interesting.
Yeah, and that's why, like, in our appointed system, in the Methodist perspective, I would prefer if we did it in July, when we are transitioning a new pastor in, or transitioning, saying, hey, we're glad you're back for another year, or we understand that we're appointed a year at a time, just say, hey, we're glad you're back. And I would like to almost see it then, just because then it comes at a time when you're in that kind of that roller coaster where it's like the lull point of the roller coaster before you're about to ramp up for fall ministries and take off again, and you run into Christmas. I've always had a problem with it being in October, because you have October and then you have Christmas. And then like in churches and the congregations I've been in, if they do something in October, they're like, we don't know what to do for you for Christmas because we've already done something for you. And so I would almost rather it be that pounding, that tradition in Methodist Church of pounding the new pastor or pounding the old pastor, not a physical pounding where you go out and beat them. Please don't do that. But where it'd be a pound of food, stock up their pantries. And there are all sorts of ways that we can support our clergy. And I think one of the things you hit the nail on the head, Zach, was space and realizing that when if you see your pastor doing something outside of the norm, that they're, they'll support them on that. That's something that's their passion, like you and I love going to baseball games and like, just hearing people say, what'd you think of the game? And like, that gives us joy. And like, when we get to talk about that kind of stuff, it's always nice because believe it or not, most pastors, healthy pastors, don't always like to talk church work. Right. And I know that's hard to believe. And I had to admit, like, there are times where like I've been in clergy groups for different things at events and things, and I don't want to talk about church work because I'm usually at that event to hear something or to gain something. And so like, I want to know, how's it going in your life? Like, how are the kids? How's your spouse? That sort of thing. And I want to get to know you better and create, because like how we create relationships with others, that is what can take care of us. And clergy are, as bad as hard as it sounds, clergy are the worst at cultivating healthy relationships and trying to build friendships to sustain us, because just the way that our job and our calling position us, it does create some difficult things. As Alexa is asking for Zach to speak now.
Well, and it's because we live in sort of a fishbowl at times. Relationships and the way that we hold ourselves and the boundaries that we put in place and the walls that we build because of bad experiences and the ways that we've been hurt, whether it's as pastors, as people, right? Those types of things get in the way of us building those healthy relationships and keep them on a surface level so we don't get hurt, right? Whether that's pastor, whether that's church member, or anywhere in between. But it's when we're intentional about, hey, I saw you went to the game. How was it? Right? Or, hey, I know you like, such and such brewery. Here's a gift card. Here's a 6-pack. Hey, we know that you love going and hiking. We would love to make space for that and make sure you're going. It's those things that build those relationships on a deeper level. And yeah, as clergy, we struggle to build those relationships. One, because as Methodists being itinerant, we move from time to time, and it just makes it hard to build relationships. But we've also been hurt, and we're tired, and we're not sure. There's some trust stuff there, right? Who do we trust? How do we trust? How much of ourselves do we reveal in certain ways? And things like Pastor Appreciation Month help break down those barriers and take bricks out of those walls so that we can trust, so that we can build those relationships. And when we see the folks around us, it's like anybody. When people pay attention and they grab onto something that seems insignificant, right? And they give you a baby Yoda for Christmas, or, they go that extra way of, no, I was paying attention. I know that you love to be outdoors. We want to help, right? We want to help make that happen. We know that you love this thing. We want you to have this. Those are significant gifts and significant ways that people appreciate making time for, the pastor and their spouse to go to dinner without the kiddos or without having to have something attached to it, right? Those are huge. And I think that's, for me, that's what Pastor Appreciation Month is all about, and why I'm so passionate that we take and make space for our clergy, our friends, our colleagues, our pastors, because it's a big deal. I shared a thing on Facebook the other day talking about the measure of success. It is a little pie chart, and there's two. One's half salary, half job title, right? And I think often as pastors, we fall into that's all we are, right? Pastors, that big circle. And yet there's this other circle, a better measure of mental health, of job title, of salary, of free time, of loving what we do, and of physical health. As pastors and as people, we're not one thing. We're not just a pastor. We're not this. We're we're spouses, we're parents, we're people, we're fans of sports, we're fans of movies and TV. And the more that we can be open and honest about that, and the more that we can live into that, and our churches help us live into that, appreciate that about us, the healthier those relationships and appreciations and ministries and just life in general go.
Yeah, and I think that that's the thing. If we can, if we care for our caregivers, more care can happen, and that's in any industry. Care for our teachers, care for our doctors and our nurses and our pastors. Like if we work towards really genuinely caring for people, I think we'd be surprised at what would happen. And I think the same goes too with as we think about this. Like I'm really looking forward to the conversations we're going to have over the next few weeks with different pastors and hearing their perspective and maybe some of the things they bring to their table. And I want to encourage you, like I know we do a lot of biblical theology and talk about, but this is a practical theology, pastoral theology, church theology of how to care for our clergy people, and our pastors, and how can we do that so that we can have healthier congregations. I think if you can do those things, it makes a difference in the church. And that's just something we encourage you to think about as you're beginning to think about that stuff with your personnel teams or however you're structured. I think that that's vital that conversation happens, and ask ourselves, how do we care for our pastor and what can we do to be better? And, like I said, we're going to have a really good lineup of people and conversations with that. And so, just draw your attention to that over the next few weeks. Zach, do you have anything to add before we close?
Get out there and appreciate your pastors. Learn something new about them. Surprise them. Don't, if you can avoid the same old, unless the same old's phenomenal, right? Unless the same old's a cruise, or some kind of trip. But find some creative ways to appreciate your pastor all month long that will carry on into the rest of the year.
So with that in mind, don't forget to check out our website at beardedtheologians.com. We have some great gear that you could buy for your pastor, bearded theologian gear or mug or whatever. Feel free to pick up an item and share it with your pastor. That always be a good item for them to share, and you'll be helping support the podcast in a small way. But you can find out all of our good stuff. We've got some really good podcasts over the last several years, as we're in our 5th year of this, inching closer to episode 300. It's been a fun time. And so just check out all of our good stuff at beardedtheologians.com. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
First, guys, I want you to subscribe and like this video and push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.